Hi everyone, welcome to the overview of week 15. Well, today, this week is the week before the last week of the classes. Basically, let me start with the deadlines. This Sunday is deadline for quiz 21, quiz 22. The deadline of quiz 21 was extended because last weekend was Thanksgiving, and I would not like to have you on Thanksgiving deadline. It's also this Sunday is also deadline of quiz 22, which means all the chapters, the quizzes of all chapters will be over. And it's also deadline for project on Euro crisis. As for the assignments that are opened for this week, let me start with the ones at the bottom. You have a new discussion on regional trade unions, which was a topic you were interested in. The discussion is basically it demands from you to choose a union. NAFTA and European Union are options, but you can choose other options like Mercosur, the South American Trade Union, or ASEAN, South Asian Trade Union, or African Free Trade Zone, or any other you would like to choose. You are asked to give one paragraph on the union you have chosen. The details are written in the assignment, and then post the link of an article on the union you have chosen, summarize the article, and then basically write your comment on the issue that is written on the article. And then you should also post 2 comments on your peers' responses. Secondly, there's a project on the global crisis, and that's basically on the global crisis of 2008, which asks you to summarize the let's look to it. Global crisis of 2000. Let's open it on a different tab. As it opens, I should also say that for the discussion you have 3 weeks, which means the deadline is the Sunday of the finals week. For the project you have 2 weeks, which means the deadline is basically the Sunday of the next week, the Sunday before the finals week. That's because I want you to have time to write peer reviews for the last project. As a last thing, I should say, I have this week I have opened also 2 discussion threads. Actually, a new discussion thread on the final, and you have a separate discussion thread on the final exam also. You also have an assignment on the final. The new discussion is basically on any questions you might have on the topics related to final. I mean, whether there's anything you haven't understand on what we have covered and what will be seen in the final exam. And also you can also use this guide to discuss on methods to prepare for the final exam, and if you want also, you can use it to found study one, which is a discussion that you already had, and it's on the technical details of the exam. Details are explained, but basically the rules, place, time, and structure, and you can ask any question you have on technical details on that under that discussion thread. The last thing, thing is the final review. That last thing we have this week on final is the final review, which basically asks you to basically post a figure, chart, or table or graph from the book, describe it, and write why it is important for the international economics, and then lastly, you need to write comments on under two of your peers' main response to the assignment, which I didn't write on this basic written version of the overview, and I'm going to correct it in a minute. Well, originally will be opened next week, and you would have 1 week to complete it, but I have decided to give you 2 weeks for it. Well, as for the project of the global crisis, let's open that discussion thread. Project thread, I'm sorry. Let's wait my computer a little bit. Okay, it has been rather fast. Well, it basically asks, well, it is on the chapter 20 or chapter 21, depending on the edition of the book, basically on the financial globalization and the crisis. And you are asked to prepare a slideshow. You need to summarize, and present developments around developments around the global financial crisis, and then, and this is a little bit tricky part, report the recent development for a country you choose. United States is the country where you have on which you have most information, but you can choose a different country. On the basis of a data chart, relevant long read, and policy brief or similar document. And below is the information on the data sources, what long read, what it means, and policy brief, what it means. And if you want to consider different sources, first look to the New York Times Magazine and New Yorker for long read, and Peterson Institute and Brookings Institute for the policy briefs. And make sure that the sources you choose are similar to them, and your sources should be in English. And for the data sources, Federal Reserve and World Data Bank are good starting points. One is for the United States, the other one is on the countries other than the United States, although you can also use it for the United States in case you want to do that. And well, this is the overview of week 15. Lastly, I would like to say that this week might be a good time to check the rules. I'm sorry. This is not something I have put there intentionally. It just came up. I'm sorry for that. Well, as I said, this week is a good time to make sure you know the rules of the testing center, especially in case you would like to take the exam using the virtual B option. away from the campus. Note that the rules of the exam, including virtual B option, where you will still be proctored using the webcam, are set by the University Testing Center, and they will be the ones who will make ultimate decisions on the rules or which exam to cancel, which exam to accept. Which means, of course, the main structure of the exam and the questions and whether the questions are right or wrong are something I decide. But what are the rules of behavior or proctoring in the testing center or through webcam, those are the things the testing center will decide. Make sure you understand their rules. If you have any confusion, this week might be a good time to ask, so that in case there is any problem, you can solve that problem. I will also speak with the testing center for the last time to make sure everything is okay with them today. This week. So this is the overview. See you next week, which will be last week of the classes. Although I will also put a review also on the finals week. So see you.